Today's story comes from the relationship advice subreddit and was posted by Solver1 and was titled My 25 female stepmom, 44 female, has blocked me from seeing anything involving my dad, 59 male, and says she will unblock me when she feels ready. I feel shut out. My dad and stepmom have been married for several years. My brother and I used to be invited to holidays and other family events fairly often. At the time, my brother was a police officer and I was a corrections officer, so our schedules sometimes made it difficult or impossible to attend. We did not intentionally avoid the family, but we understandably could not make it to every event. Apparently, our inability to attend everything hurt my stepmom much more than either of us realized. Eventually, she stopped inviting us altogether. A little over a year ago, I started talking to my brother about how disconnected I felt. I kept seeing Facebook posts of my dad, my stepmom, and her children celebrating holidays and attending family events together, while my brother and I were rarely invited or involved. My brother confronted my stepmom about it directly. The confrontation became a much larger conflict than I ever expected. According to my stepmom, it caused so much hurt and tension that she and my dad discussed divorce. Afterward, she changed her Facebook privacy settings so my brother and I could no longer see posts involving her family, including posts and photos involving our own dad. I only fully confirmed this a few days ago. I logged into an old Facebook account that was still connected with my dad and saw several posts my stepmom had tagged him in. None of them appeared on my regular account. I asked her directly whether she had blocked me from certain posts, and she confirmed that she had. She explained that the situation last year had been extremely painful for her and that changing the privacy settings was her way of protecting her peace, protecting her marriage, and preventing future family conflict. She said the decision was not intended to hurt me or push me away. I responded as respectfully as I could. I explained that I understood why the original conflict hurt her and that I was not angry or jealous about her spending time with my dad and her children. I also told her that I understand we all have separate schedules and lives, and that I do not expect to be involved in every family activity. What has been difficult is feeling completely disconnected from my dad and that side of the family. Even when I cannot attend something, seeing an occasional picture of my dad or seeing everyone together helps me feel like I am still connected to them in some small way. I also told her that it has now been over a year that I have reflected on what happened, and that I believe I have grown from it. I apologized previously and made it clear that I do not want to return to the conflict we had before. I simply hoped she might eventually feel comfortable allowing me to see those posts again. She responded kindly, but said that the situation nearly cost her marriage and that she still has her guard up. She said rebuilding trust and feeling emotionally safe will take time. She also said she wants to be able to post whatever she wants about herself, my dad, and her children without worrying about anyone reacting negatively. She said that when she feels ready, she will change the privacy settings. I understand that she was hurt, and I'm not trying to tell her how quickly she should recover. At the same time, there is no indication of when she might feel ready. It could be months, years, or possibly never. The social media issue also made me think more seriously about my relationship with my dad outside of Facebook. Whenever I ask to spend time with him, he usually has to confirm with my stepmom that it is okay first. The last time I spent time alone with him was more than 6 months ago when we went to lunch. During the lunch, my stepmom called him repeatedly, sometimes only a few minutes apart, which made it difficult for us to have a genuine conversation. In fact, I called my dad today to see if we could schedule a time for the two of us to get lunch or dinner together, and he told me he had to make sure it was okay with my stepmom first. I have not felt like I have been able to maintain a close, independent relationship with my dad for a long time. I feel as though access to him depends on whether my stepmom is comfortable with it. I do not want to create more conflict in their marriage, and I'm not asking him to choose between his wife and his children. I just want to be able to have a relationship with my dad that is not constantly filtered through someone else. My dad is turning 60 this year. I know that is not extremely old, but it has made me think about how limited our time with our parents really is. I want to spend time with him, talk to him, and continue making memories while we still can. Instead, I feel like more and more time is passing while I wait for my stepmom to decide that she feels comfortable with me again. This has been seriously affecting my mental health. I feel rejected, excluded, and distanced from my dad. At the same time, I recognize that my stepmom has her own feelings and believes she is protecting herself and her marriage. I feel that this has gone beyond protecting her peace and has become a way of shutting me out of my dad's life. How can I address this with my dad without making him feel like he has to choose sides? Edit. I understand why many of you are saying my dad is responsible for maintaining a relationship with me, and I agree. However, I am surprised that many have dismissed the possibility that there may be a controlling dynamic going on within his marriage. The last time I had lunch with my dad, which I mentioned in my initial post below, my stepmom called him repeatedly, and we could barely have a genuine conversation without her interrupting. At one point, I even told him he didn't have to answer her calls and that it could wait, but he told me that if he didn't answer her calls, it would cause a huge fight or argument between them. As previous others have stated, if the roles were reversed, and this was a mother who said she needed her husband's permission to have a meal alone with her daughter, while he repeatedly called her throughout and said if she ignored his calls it would create an argument, I think many would recognize that as potentially controlling behavior. I believe my dad is trying to avoid conflict, is afraid of ruining his marriage, is unable to stand up to his wife, or is just simply worried about the consequences of upsetting her. Relevant comments. OP cannot communicate privately with their father. That's the problem. We hardly have any opportunities to speak with our dad directly. She has access to his phone and reads every conversation we have with him. We can't get time alone with him to have these conversations. I know my dad is just trying to be neutral in this situation or probably doesn't even know how to handle it. OP's view of the family dynamic, or rather my stepmom, has created an environment in which my dad doesn't even feel safe or like he's able to prioritize us without potentially causing offense to his wife or damaging the relationship. In our state, men rarely, if ever, come out of divorce with anything. OP clarifies they previously had a good relationship with their stepmother. Those are insane assumptions. I have previously had no issues with my stepmom, and I have appreciated how happy she seems to have made my dad. In fact, my brother and I used to be incredibly close with our stepmom, to the point where we both called and visited often. It wasn't until she began no longer involving us that the dynamic changed. Where did I once state my goal was to separate my dad and my stepmom. My only goal is for us to get on, but it is incredibly difficult to do so when we're no longer included in family events or holidays. Example OP believes indicates a controlling relationship. I know he genuinely cares about us and having a relationship with us. However, I am under the assumption that his wife is making him choose between us or her, or threatening divorce. The last time my dad and I got lunch together, his wife was calling him, and I wish I was joking, every 2 minutes. I told him he doesn't need to answer her, and that it can wait, and he explained that if he didn't answer, it would cause a huge fight between them. If the roles were reversed, as other commenters have stated, and this was my mother instead of my dad, most people would agree that it is a controlling and abusive relationship. Blonde2468 says, unfortunately, you have to face the fact that your father allows this. Hope replied, I understand that he has some responsibility for allowing it, and I'm not trying to excuse him altogether. I genuinely don't know whether he fully realizes what is happening because we rarely get the opportunity to speak to him privately about any of it. The last time the issue came up, it was presented to him in a way that made my brother and me seem entirely at fault, while our feelings and perspectives seem to get lost. I don't know exactly what she says to him behind closed doors, but it often feels like the situation is framed around her hurt and her need for peace, without much acknowledgement of how her decisions affect us or our relationship with our dad. That is why I want the chance to speak with him directly, rather than assuming he knows the entire story and simply does not care. I think that's an extreme assumption. Unlikely Bake 846 says, why are you taking with her and not your dad? Hope replied, because I can't get together with my dad privately to have this discussion. She always has an excuse that they have something important going on that day that they both need to be present for. I can't often call or text my dad to discuss it. either because she goes through his phone and I never know if she's in the room or not during a phone call. 2 Work Ago says, why are you going through all this with a new wife and not speaking directly to your father? Hope replied, I urge you to read previous comments asking the same thing. My stepmother goes through his phone, and therefore nothing I text my dad is private. I cannot get together with my dad privately because my stepmom always has an excuse that there's something else going on that they both need to be present/available for. She's attached to him at the hip. The last time I got lunch with my dad to have an important conversation with him, she was calling him every 2 minutes. I even told my dad he could talk to her later, and he said if he didn't answer, it would cause a huge fight between them. Small update in the main post. My dad called me back today and said we can get lunch or dinner this Thursday. Funny enough, I heard my stepmom in the background saying, but we have this thing going on Thursday, to which I said that they usually do that thing in the mornings, so dinner should work just fine, to which my dad agreed. I'm happy I'll finally be able to spend quality time with my dad and address the concerns I've had. Thanks to the helpful comments regarding this situation. Update. I did have dinner with my dad tonight, which I am so thankful for. I could tell he was so happy to spend time with me. The first thing he told me when I picked him up was how he had a hard time sleeping last night and had high blood pressure because he was so anxious about how his wife, my stepmom, would react to us having dinner together privately. He shared with me that she argued about feeling left out. Mind you, they do everything together, go everywhere together, etc. She tried really hard to get him to cancel, and knowing it might upset her, he went anyways. She claimed my dad only cares about my feelings and that I was trying to start things up again, like last year. My dad said that she also told him this, which made my mouth drop to the floor in anger. Who's going to be there when you're sick or on your deathbed? Not your kids, me. Who on earth says that? My stepmom clearly doesn't understand the love I have for my dad, and I am so offended by that. He said himself he feels like she's put him in a position where he feels like he has to choose between her or his kids, my brother and I, and that only her kids seem to matter. He also admitted to noticing that she has seemed to use her feelings/emotions as a way to try and manipulate him. We talked about so much involving this, and I can't remember everything, but he did also confirm that while they never argue about anything, the only time an argument comes up is when it involves us, his kids. I think this dinner really opened my eyes and affirmed the suspicions I had, and hopefully his as well. He was already very anxious, so I did not show him the post and comments because I didn't want to make things worse. For those of you who claim my dad was the bad guy here, I hope this update might make you see things differently. Thank you. Relevant comments. Fun Political says, my dad was in a very similar relationship, and I told him the following. If you ever need to leave, or if things get really bad between you two, just call me and tell me to come get you. No questions asked. I wanted him to know that I was a safe place. No judgment. No lectures. No, I told you so. Just someone who would show up. He lived about 4 hours away at the time. Toward the end of his life, her behavior became so much worse, especially when it came to taking care of him. The sad part was that he didn't require much help. He was incredibly independent for as long as he possibly could be. Yet she acted as though every small request was the biggest inconvenience in the world. She was like every evil Disney stepmother rolled into one. From what you've described, your stepmom sounds very similar. Hope replied, the crazy thing is she has him convinced that she loves us and cares about us like her own children, and has told him she wishes she was our real mom. But that contradicts everything that has happened or is happening. Something else I have not shared previously is that I have another brother who is no longer involved in the family from some crazy stuff that supposedly happened between my stepmom and him. And the one brother I've mentioned in my posts is at a point where he doesn't care and doesn't want to be involved in the family drama, but was pushed away by my stepmom. So I'm the only child my dad has left who is still there, trying and caring. The bond my dad and I have is very strong, and I believe now, at this point, he would divorce her in a heartbeat if she forced that decision of me or your daughter onto him. Aggressive Unit 5105 says, you haven't said, but don't either of them work? Is there not a chance to get him outside the house on an errand? I know you said she is stuck to him and they do everything together, but where does the money to live come from? Hope replied, they co-own a business. The second story is from Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by Stunning Factor 871 and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for finally supporting my husband's ultimatum to his late wife's parents after they've repeatedly excluded my son? I, 35 female, am in a loving blended family, but the extended family drama is crushing me. I have a wonderful 10-year-old son. My current husband, 32 male, lost his first wife 4 years ago and has a 7-year-old son. We've built a beautiful family of 4. My husband treats both boys exactly the same. I do the same with my stepson, and the boys love each other like real brothers. We're genuinely happy despite everything. The problem is my husband's ex-in-laws, his late wife's parents. They constantly badmouth me and paint me as the evil stepmom, feeding every nasty stereotype, mean, neglectful, manipulative, jealous, etc., to my husband's parents and anyone who will listen. For example, after my stepson had a minor injury, they said things like stepmoms can never be real. Why would she even care about him? They accuse me of manipulating my stepson and try to turn everyone against me. Every time they visit, they completely ignore my son. No greetings, no conversation. They bring gifts, toys, chocolates, and sweets only for their biological grandson. When my kind-hearted stepson immediately shares everything with my son, as he always does, they get visibly annoyed, say things like, "Why are you sharing with him? That's for you only," and even try to pull him away. My husband has been solid and always says other people's opinions don't matter. He wanted to set a strong boundary earlier by announcing on my stepson's birthday, "If you are family, then you're family to both kids. If that's not possible, you're not family and not invited." I stopped him because I thought a nice talk would work. I've been holding my husband back from taking any harsh steps in order to respect his ex-in-laws as they lost their daughter. I wanted to respect the memory of his late wife and give them time to adjust. On my stepson's birthday last year, his side of the family showed up with gifts and love. On my son's birthday, almost no one came, and the few who did showed up empty-handed. Gifts are important to us as adults, but to a child it feels like rejection and being left out. My son was sad and has started asking me painful questions because of this exclusion, like why they don't like him or what he did wrong, which breaks my heart. I have zero family on my side, so he doesn't have that extended network. His birthday is coming up soon, and I'm dreading it. I'd even be happy to buy gifts myself that they could give him if that makes it easier. I just don't want him to feel left out again. Recently after they left, my son refused to eat the chocolates or play with the shared toys. He quietly kept everything in his pockets and returned it all to me. That broke me. I'm completely fine with them loving their biological grandson more. That's natural. But the open hostility, exclusion of my son, and constant comments are painful. Edit. I finally stopped holding my husband back. He is now taking strict action and has given an ultimatum to his side of the family. Either they are family to both kids or family to none. Am I the a-hole for supporting this hard line now, after previously trying to keep the peace? Or should I still be trying to make nice for the sake of family and my husband's late wife's memory? I just want my son to feel included and loved on his birthday instead of rejected again. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "I kind of understand why the late wife's parents are more interested in their biological grandson. But doesn't your son have 2 sets of grandparents as well?" Opie replied, "Unfortunately not. My parents passed away and I don't have any contact with my husband's family." Commenter 2 says, "Not the a-hole. Your husband is stepping up. The trick is going to be managing the relationship with the boys so that there is no resentment. If you're no contact or low contact with the family for a while, that will be fine." On a separate note, who shows up to kid's birthday party without a gift? What blatant a-holes? Commenter 3 says, "Your husband absolutely is doing the right thing. It's great to hear how your nuclear family is navigating life together. Time to limit exposure to the boys' maternal grandparents before they start planting seeds in the boy's brain. Shame on them." Commenter 4 says, "Your husband knows the people involved. They're for him to deal with, and you should not be interfering, especially since it's a good solid boundary he's drawing. Stop trying to please everyone. They clearly don't accept it. You may as well be real and support your son, your husband, and your position in the family." Update 1. My husband's parents came over for dinner. After dinner, they started a conversation about the ultimatum my husband had given them earlier. He had finally sat them down and asked why they blindly believe everything his ex-in-laws say about me. They responded that they've seen everything with their own eyes and listed their issues with me. That I'm too harsh and casual when talking about his mother's death, e.g. saying she died or she is dead instead of using softer words. That I'm careless, especially after their grandson had a small injury. That I'm trying to erase his mother's memory. They also accused me of manipulating my husband about the cat. My stepson wanted a cat, but my husband said no because he felt it would be cruel to bring a pet home when we can't give it proper care and attention. His parents tried to convince him to get one anyway. I didn't even know there was any argument between him and his parents over this. I only knew that he had told my stepson no when he asked. Now, they're claiming I manipulated him into refusing. My husband defended me and explained. Our therapist specifically recommended we be direct and straightforward about his mother's death, so my stepson can learn the permanence of death at his age. That's why I use clear wording, not just about his mom, but even when referring to my own late relative. When he, my hubby, was a child, he got injured often, including breaking his arm once. But that didn't mean his mother was careless. He asked them, "Do you think I'm stupid or blind? If my wife was actually doing something wrong, don't you think I would notice?" The conversation turned into a big argument, especially over the cat issue. Relevant comments. OP clarifies on who badmouthed her to the extended family members. OP says, "My hubby's ex-in-laws badmouthed me to all the relatives from hubby's side, including my hubby's parents. So the ultimatum my hubby gave was for all. And my hubby's parents came to talk about it, and this happened." Downvoted commenter says, "You still haven't told us when you met your husband, when you started dating, and when you got married. Were you his side piece as his wife was dying?" Opie replied, "No, I wasn't his side piece. I met him 2.5 years ago." Commenter 1, "How much of the ex-in-law's dislike of you is because you're complaining about them not treating your child like a grandchild? Frankly, I think you are an a-hole for expecting that they owe something to a child with whom they have zero relationship. Your husband's parents should be treating him like a grandson because he is their son's stepchild. Your kid is nothing to your stepchild's grandparents at all. So frankly, I can see why they don't like you much. They lost their daughter at a young age, and now her replacement has decided they owe her kid a relationship. If you have your way, then your stepkid not only has a dead mom, but no grandparents. Meanwhile, your child probably has at least some grandparents between your parents and his father's." Opie replied, "I agree that hubby's ex-in-laws will probably never treat both boys the same, but it wouldn't hurt them to be nice to my son. Telling my stepson not to share his toys and stuff with him is totally unacceptable. My hubby and I are doing our best to raise them as brothers." Commenter 2 says, "Glad your husband is backing you up appropriately. You deserve that. The thing is, even if your in-laws were right and you were some kind of fairy tale villain, why would they punish a child for that? They hate you, so they hurt an innocent kid, and they think they're in the right? That tells you all you need to know, in my opinion." Update 2. My son turned 11 yesterday. It was better than last year, but still pretty awkward overall. Most of the relatives we invited from my husband's side actually showed up. It was clear they mainly came because they didn't want to upset my husband after the ultimatum. They brought gifts for both boys and stayed polite, but the vibe was very "we're here to keep the peace" rather than genuine warmth. Most of them kept interactions with my son short and surface level while being more natural with my stepson. We also invited my husband's ex-in-laws, but they didn't show up at all, which we expected. After cake and presents, my husband pulled his parents aside for a private talk. He explained the therapist's advice about using direct words like died and death so our stepson can properly understand what happened. He invited them to join us for a therapy session if they wanted. They agreed it made sense and said they'd think about coming. Before everyone left, my husband and I thanked them all for showing up. We told them sincerely that it meant a lot to us that they came and were there for both boys. I'm happy they showed up. I completely understand that my son and my stepson are not the same for them. I know they'll always love their biological grandson more. That's natural. I just want basic kindness and inclusion for my son, and yesterday was a step in the right direction. My son had a decent day. He was happy about his gifts and that so many people came this year. He wasn't ignored or left out like before, and he didn't ask any heartbreaking questions. He didn't notice the difference in how people acted toward him, but he still went to bed smiling. I have to say, my husband has been absolutely amazing through all of this. He stayed strong, protected both boys, held the boundary, and made sure our son still felt celebrated. I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful, fair, and protective partner. He really is the rock of our family. It feels like a lot of this is damage control on their part, but at least my son got to celebrate without feeling rejected. We're keeping the boundary firm and taking the small progress where we can get it. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, I have to ask, why did relatives give presents to both boys? Gifts should have been just for the birthday child. Other than that, you're doing well. Hold the line. Commenter 2 says, they love OP's stepson. Since they primarily came to keep the peace, they gave token gift to OP's bio son. Their preference is still OP's stepson. Indirectly, they're telling OP though OP's husband made them come down for fairness. Their allegiance will always be towards their blood, aka OP's stepson. They won't give a gift to OP's son on stepson's birthday. That would give them smug satisfaction, I suppose. As long as the partiality isn't in face, OP will let go, I guess. I'm glad that she has a strong husband. Hopefully therapist sessions will help in bringing down animosity towards OP and her child. Ultimately, stepson needs a kind mother, which OP is. Commenter 3 says, it was OP's bio son's birthday, wasn't it? So they got the birthday boy a token gift and gave their bio relative a larger gift, even though it wasn't their birthday? OP replied, their preference will always be my stepson, no doubt in that, yeah. As long as partiality isn't in fact, I don't have any problem. Commenter 4 says, I can get on board with your husband's family treating your son better, but expecting that from his deceased wife's family or cutting them off over it still gives me the full body. As a stepchild, I know why you want his parents to treat your son more fairly. My second husband's family treating my oldest like another grandchild is in a small way important to me. Though I take advantage of it being voluntary, because blending is natural to our families. However, my late husband's parents being forced to treat my youngest like their grandchild at risk of being cut out, and he shares blood with their grandchild, seems rude, disrespectful, and cruel. I would never want to interfere with their relationship with my older child like that. They don't owe their resources, their time, or their money to a child I chose to have with the partner I chose after their son died. I expect only that they are cordial and kind when we're in a room together. Opie replied, main problem with hubby's ex-in-laws is not that they don't treat my son same. If they can't be nice, they should not be rude. And they try to put thoughts in my stepson that my son is not his brother and sharing things with him is wrong, when me and my husband are trying to raise them as brothers. Commenter 6 says, Opie has a good man in her life. Opie replied, I know I'm blessed.